So, what I'm about to say and speak about is very, very crucial and serious, and this time, I mean, it's just a sign of the times. It's the end times. You know, we gotta get used to this. It's only gonna get worse. But, you know, I have to speak out about it. And speaking out about it, unfortunately, will probably affect my immigration case. You know, I was on my way to Scotland, and that's not right. I mean, you should be able to speak out about what happens to you in a government facility. It was supposed to be a government facility, but you know, that's a different story that I found out. You should be able to be treated with respect and decency, even when you're not in your own country and you have your passport. None of that should affect your case. Speaking out about negligence or whatever's going on should not affect your case, because that's just causing more corruption and greed, and you know, people are scared to speak out. Well, I'm not, because you know, these other people, they're not lucky enough to be an American citizen or have friends and family like I do, you know? So I was on my way to Scotland, and I flew with Norwegian Airlines, and it was like an 11-hour flight, you know. I get to London, and I'm not even worried about immigration. I'm like, I have everything I need, like, you know. And I'm not even staying in London. I'm going to Scotland, so I'm thinking, oh, I'm just gonna go get my transfer flight, and I'm more worried about that. So I left like LAX around like 8 p.m. and I took this flight and got to London at around 1 p.m. and I'd fallen asleep a little bit on the plane, and you know, I wasn't able to sleep much. But unfortunately, right when I did fall asleep, I guess they passed out the immigration paperwork, and then I asked the lady, oh, you know, I didn't get the paperwork. I didn't know if I had to fill something out, and she said, oh, we ran out, but the people at the front, at the desks will help you and stuff. And so, like, I'm just not even thinking anything of it. I'm getting pushed into this line with the non-UK citizens, and I go up to this lady and I tell her what's going on. Like, I'm here for my birthday. It was one day before my birthday. I'm like, I'm here for vacation, and you know, I was trying to fumble to get all of my information because my phone wasn't working that well. And so, like, I'm trying to get around, trying to find, like, Lauren's address and all her information and stuff, but I have it all, and I'm telling her I'm going to be going on a transfer flight, you know, and they're just wondering why I didn't have a return flight, which was, you know, I had no idea, a major red flag, I guess, but they don't tell you this. Like, they just say you can come to the UK for 6 months, you know, and they don't really tell you anything else. So it's kind of hard when you get to the immigration and to the border, and then all of a sudden there's, like, all this stuff that's expected of you, but you had no idea. So I'm like, just get her all the information. I get her all the right information. I tell her all the truth. Like, I don't have a return flight because we're gonna go to Copenhagen, and we were gonna get married, and then we're gonna leave from there. And they did not like that answer, I'll tell you what. And then it turned to all of a sudden the whole trip being about marriage and about even if I know Lauren or, you know, all this stuff. And they pull me aside. They don't believe me. They put me in this dirty like glass glass case where, like, they keep you in this thing. Like, it was so dirty. Like, you could tell they hadn't cleaned it in who knows how long. And it's like, how many people are you putting in this, like, glass pen? And it's right there, like, where everyone else is walking by going to talk to the border force and everything like that. And so I'm just wondering what's going on. I still have my phone at this point, so I'm messaging Lauren, and I'm like, dude, they put me in, like, a detainment thing. I don't know what's going on. You know, and they had called Lauren just to verify the whole story. And I'm like, okay, for sure they're going to let me through now. They're going to see that, like, the story's true. But that's not the case. And I had no idea what was going on. And they're like, oh, do you have another? They finally came, and they're like, do you have another bag? I'm like, yeah. So they're like, took me to go get my bag that I had checked. And then they took me to this side thing, and they started searching all my stuff again. And searching every single piece of clothing and saying, like, did anyone ask you to bring over anything, like, and I'm like, no, absolutely not. So they search everything, they find nothing, then they take me, there's like three security guards on me all the time, and then they take me to this place, they serve me with papers, and they get my fingerprints, and they take my picture, and they're like, oh, you know, we have to interview you, we have to do another interview with you, and that's what's going on. And I'm just like, okay, at this point, I'm like, that's fine, like, I've told nothing but the truth, I'm gonna keep telling nothing but the truth. But then they start using you over to this other side of the airport, and basically I walk through it, and as I'm walking through, this lady's walking out with her son, and her outfit's like all black, but it has like Rasta like accented everywhere, and I'm like, oh my god, I love your outfit, like, I love it so much. And she like looked at me and was like, oh my god, bless you, like, thank you, thank you, thank you, you know. And I had no idea what she had just been through. And so I go in this place, going through to this other side, they like start to tell you like, oh, we have to take your stuff and your phone because you could take a picture of us or something. And I'm thinking in my head, like, what is going on, you know? Like, I never knew this is going on, honestly. Like, I knew America had hard borders or whatever, but I never knew this about any around the world, you know. I guess I just was totally oblivious. And so they take all my stuff, they take my phone, they take my notebooks. They're like, oh, we have to take these notebooks, they're gonna want to look through them. Like, that's fine, get some Jesus on, you guys. Like, they're gonna see there's nothing in my notebooks except about God and scriptures, you know. And so I'm walking into this place, and they're like, you know, the staff there, the airport staff is awesome, they were really nice, but they had nothing to do with the immigration, honestly. So they don't even know what's going on. And they're like, oh, if you want any food, we have food here. And I'm just like, dude, I'm vegan, I can't eat any of this food, it's all meat, it was all like weird stuff. I'm just like, I can't eat this. At this point though, I'm like so hungry. If I wouldn't get sick from eating other food, I probably would have ate the freaking food because I was so hungry. But I'm just like explaining to them, like, if I eat this, I'm gonna be sick, and I'm gonna be sick in here, you know. And so after all that, they finally put me in the holding, which I could see everyone else in there, and I was like, I hope I'm not going in there. And yeah, I went in there. So I'm in this place, and it's like jail. Like, they can see you through the glass, and there's literally like, the time I walked in, there was probably like 7 other people in there. And you have to share a couple bathrooms, and there's like a shower, and there's a payphone, and there's like a bookshelf with some books, and then there was like a small little TV, and it was like skipping, the movies were skipping. It was like, oh my god, where are we, in like a CIA torture chamber? What is this, you know? And the air conditioning was on full blast, and they wouldn't turn it off. Like, people were trying to cuddle up like in their jackets and everything, and like saying, turn the air off, and they're just like, so obviously people were getting really unsettled and really feeling really on edge. No one really knew why they were in there. We all got served with these papers, like 1971 Immigration Act, and the only thing checked was like, you gave unreliable answers to an officer. So we're all like, what is going on? Like, are we gonna get out of here? Like, what's going on, you know? And this other guy, I didn't really get to talk to him because like right when I got in there, he was pretty upset, and he I'm not even sure what country he was from, but he's not from the UK or America or anything. And he was like in his jacket, and he was so cold, and he was trying to tell the people to turn it down, and they're just like, use the blankets. He's like, these blankets have flies on them. They were like yarn blankets, like just so old. I wasn't about to touch any of the stuff. I'm like, I have allergies. This looks like they've been here like 10 years. And the guy tried to open the door. He's like, turn it off. And they're like, got all scared, and they're like, shut the door on him real quick because it has a lock. And then they're like, you can make a complaint. And so he starts filling out the complaint, and you know, he's sitting there and he's writing it because they have it in all the languages. They have like a big book, and this guy with like, I started noticing out there, I was in there a while, comes with the key, and he checks the complaint box, and he looks in the bathroom, never cleans it. It was disgusting in the bathroom, let me tell you. And then he just walks out again. So this guy's writing his complaint, and then all of a sudden they come and they take him, and they take him somewhere, and they take him with the stuff. And one guy, he was sitting back, and he had been trying to kind of sleep, and he was from the Caribbean, and he was like, oh man, he shouldn't have complained, now they're gonna take him to the other place. And I'm like, what other place? What are you talking about, dude? And you know, his story is he was from the Caribbean, he went to Spain, and then now he was trying to get back to the Caribbean, and he had to go through the UK, and then they detained him, and they're going to send him back to Spain. And he was telling me it was like, he had a rough time over there, they were like pretty racist against him. And so I'm like thinking in my head, like, what other place? So at this point, I'm freaked out. I mean, I finally opened the door, or asked them to open the door, and I'm like, can my fiance call me? Can you guys call my fiance and tell her to call me on this phone, please? I need to speak with her. And so they allowed that, and they called her for me, and then she was calling me on the payphone, and I was telling her what was going on, and you know, it was 8 hours before I got to speak with an immigration officer and to talk to somebody about my story. Like 8 hours I sat in this place with these amazing people. I will never forget the people I was in detainment with. Like, never. We didn't have phones. We just had each other, you know? And more people kept coming in. And it's almost like, oh, you're in there longer, so you want to help them. And I looked at the bookshelf and I was like, okay, there's Bibles here. Like, I'll grab a Bible. One said like the Good News Bible, and it was the same color as my sweater, maroon. So I opened it, and it was to Lamentations 3. Lamentations 3:34, and it was in the Good News Bible, so it was like different. It was awesome. It was like awesome translation. It says like, the Lord knows when your spirit's been crushed in prison, and when your rights have been denied from you that are given to you by the Most High, and like God sees everything and His way is going to prevail. But it really gave me encouragement in there, because I'm like, okay, I'm in this for a reason. God wanted me to see this. God wants me to speak for the voiceless. And He also gave me Philippians 1, and it's like about how when Paul was in prison and the gospel was strengthened. So I'm just like finding encouragement in these scriptures, and I'm sitting at this bench. I mean, all that was in there was this metal bench on one side of the wall, this other metal bench on another side of the wall, and then another metal bench on the other side of the wall. And in the middle was two like almost picnic style benches, but it had like seats like with backs in it. And so I'm sitting there, and more kids are coming in. One kid came from Panama. He had a leather jacket, and he was backpacking like all over, and he came from Paris. And so he was like, what's going on? I kind of told him what's going on with me, and like showed him my papers and stuff. And at this point, like, we're just all trying to find encouragement. I showed him what God gave me, because he was like, are you a Christian? Or you know, we all had language barriers, but I was like, yeah, you know, I don't really like the labels, because I think, you know, labels are kind of just weird, but I believe that Jesus, like, His blood redeems us, and he died for us, and He's our Savior, and we can count on Him, you know. And we're just showing him like how the relationship I have with God, and how what He showed me while I was in there. And he's like, oh yeah, I heard about Paul, and when he was in prison, I watched something about it, a movie before, and I was like, yeah, you know, so it's gonna be okay. And another kid came in, and he was actually in his like wedding outfit, but I had no idea. So I'm like, hey, why you dressed like that? You dress like that all the time, or what? And he's like, I just got married. He had like papers. So I looked down. I'm like, you were gonna go? You guys went to Copenhagen, and like, he's like, yeah, we went to Copenhagen, and like they got married in Copenhagen, exactly what like me and Lauren were planning on doing, because in Copenhagen you don't have to have visas to get married. And so they detained him, and they took him from his newly wife, all his friends, and they're sending him back to Copenhagen, and he has no one in Copenhagen. He knows no one. He's from Brazil. And so he was crying. So God told me to go over to him, and I just hugged him like really tight, and I just grabbed him, and we hugged. He stood up, and we hugged for like 15-20 minutes. Like, we didn't stop, and we were just crying together. And he was like, thank you, like I needed that, you know. And so it was just like really emotional. We were all bipolar, and they're crying, and they were trying to like be positive. And this other guy came in from Norway, and so he realized he was stuck. Everyone's trying to like figure each other out in there, you know. So he comes over to me, and like, because I had the Bible, and he flips it over, and he's like, what are you reading, man? Like, what is that? And I'm like, oh, you know, the good news. And start telling him. And so he was like, whoa, okay. Like, he was interested. And, you know, we were all just trying to get along in there. And at this point, my officer finally comes, and I get taken into this other room. This officer was so mean to me. He did not believe anything that I was saying. First of all, the first thing he says to me is, are you okay to be interviewed? I'm like, no, not really. I'm super tired. I haven't eaten. I don't know what's going on. I've been in detainment with a bunch of other people for 8 hours after an 11-hour flight. And he's like, well, you know what? I'm going to be writing this stuff down, so you need to keep it short. So now I'm freaked out. I'm like, I don't want him to deny me entry. And I'm trying to like tell everything but keep it short. And basically, he's trying to say that everything I was saying was dodgy, and the way we met is dodgy. I know what dodgy means because of Lauren. It just means like sketchy or whatever. And so I'm just like, I'm like trying to reassure him. I'm like, you know, Lauren came to live with me in America for 3 months, but she came over for her work originally, and, you know, we met and fell in love. I proposed to her, and he never asked me, like, if I knew any of her family. I had met her family in Venice Beach, but he didn't ask that, and so then he tried to say I didn't know any of her family, and it was for my own protection, that they were going to deny me entry into the country. And I was like, are you serious? Like, we have birthday plans, everything. Like, my fiance's going to be waiting for me in Edinburgh. Like, I already missed my flight. So it was just crazy. I was like, please let me in. Like, what is wrong? Like, I don't know, understand what I did wrong. And he's like, what is wrong is what you're saying now. It's not what you're saying at the beginning. And I'm like, I've had the same story through the whole way through. You guys just do not like my story. So they basically deny me entry. I had nobody to represent me. The American Embassy can't get involved. What I found out is this immigration, especially, like, immigration has sold out a lot around the world, and they've sold out to this company, G4S. G4S, look it up. And it's an American security prison company that they've outsourced their immigration to because of the extreme overflow. And that's what these officers are. They are privatized. They are getting paid to do this to people. They're getting paid to treat people unfairly, unjustly, and to deny people entry. They're getting the actual influx went from thousands of dollars to billions of dollars, the industry now, because it's been privatized, just like some prisons. And so finding this out, I realized why the officer was so mean. And literally it says G4S on the back of my passport, G4S security. It's not government run anymore. So that's the issue that's happening, is that people are making money off of it. So there you go, my birthday, G4S security right there, G4S. And so I started looking into that and stuff, and I suggest you guys do too, because you don't want to fly to any airports that are being outsourced by G4S, because, you know, you think that it's just other people that are going to be detained and put in these immigration prisons, but you could be one of them very easily. And so, you know, after getting denied entry, I'm told I'm going to be put on a 5 a.m. flight back to LAX, and so I have to go back into the detainment center with everybody else, and, you know, we're all talking in there again, and basically, you know, I told the one Caribbean guy, like, I saw that lady come in the beginning with her Rost outfit and stuff. He's like, oh man, that lady, she had the most horrible day. She was crying, puking. She had her little son with her. She was seeking asylum, and they were taking her to the other place, like what this guy's talking about. I looked it up. It's this prison by the Gatwick Airport. So they put people in this prison by the airport. We don't have anywhere else to go. They have this, like, immigration detention or containment center, but it's a prison, you know. And so basically they're sending people back to places they're not from. One lady, they're sending her back to Fort Lauderdale, and she's not from Florida. She was just on holiday with her family, and, you know, she's from Brazil, and they're sending her back to Florida. And she has nobody there and no way to get away from Florida. So it's like they're displacing people more than they're helping people get back to where they belong or to seek asylum. You know, they're actually detaining people and stopping them from getting to their destinations, and they're actually making more immigrants. So it makes no sense. And at this point, it's like midnight. I'm so hungry. I'm going to get on a flight at 5 a.m. I'm like, can we try to get a vegan meal? Keep in mind, on the papers that they gave me, it says detainment is only necessary when there's no other reasonable alternative. The officer told me I was going to be given a bed and a place to shower and a vegan meal, because I told him again, sir, I haven't eaten anything. They don't have anything for me to eat. I'm vegan. And he's like, oh, they haven't got anything yet. I'll talk to them again. But I still didn't get a vegan meal. And so I'm on the phone with Lauren. She's emailing the flight and saying that he could try to get me a vegan meal on the flight, but they need my boarding number. And so I'm asking the lady to ask my immigration officer to come back, because first of all, everything on the paper was wrong. Lauren's name was spelled wrong. Lauren's last name was spelled wrong. Everything was wrong. And I'm like, okay, forget about that. I just need my boarding number so I can get food. For 6 hours, she's calling this immigration officer. No, nothing back. No, they won't give me the boarding number until they finally got the boarding number to me at 4:30 a.m. when I was about to be boarding the flight. So I'm 15 hours no food, have committed no crime. You know, I'm told that I'm getting sent back for my own protection. Luckily, I came straight from LAX, because if I would stop somewhere else, they would just be sending me back to that flight. And so I was so blessed that it actually came a straight shot flight from LAX and got to go right back to LA and not have to go to some place I don't know and have to figure it out from there, you know. And so I'm in the detainment center. I had a little spot on one of the benches, but you know, some of these younger kids that were in there were really scared and had a lot longer haul than I did, so I gave up my spot. And you know, everyone's freezing. I was reading some of these articles about the immigration detainment centers, and people are calling them ice boxes. That's not a joke. It was so cold in there, and they won't turn the air off. The lights are so bright, you cannot sleep. Like, people are trying to sleep, but it's like hell on earth in there, literally. Like, I can't even explain, and we don't have phones or anything to prove it. I'm trying to stay positive, so like the people who still were awake were like, all right, like, what can we do in here? Because I was reading later that this airport has been in trouble for detaining kids, detaining elderly people, and like they died in their care. So they detained kids and everything. So on the bookshelf, like where the Bibles were, there was like a Jenga. We found a Jenga thing. And we're like, oh my god, let's play, because that was something that we could all like universally do. We tried to sing songs. We're like, let's sing some songs, but none of us knew the same songs, so we're laughing and like hitting each other, like, oh my god. And then we were like, all right, I was all partying the pin. Let's like play Jenga. We're playing Jenga, and like the kid from Panama is like, what do you mean by partying the pin? I'm like, oh, in America we call it like the penitentiary, like the pin, like, you know. And so we were all just trying to make light of it. We're so bipolar in there. We're like crying and trying to be happy and not, and you know, it could be way worse. There's a lot of people who have it way worse. There who was like meditating and praying, and I think he was from Honduras, and you know, he was kind of looking at me because he saw I was so like outspoken about Jesus and stuff, and I was looking at him like, it's all right, like, I know who you are. You come from Ishmael, like, you know, God set you guys up as a nation, like, I'm not going to be anything, you know. He's just meditating, because people were getting so annoyed, because they were just like, really, it was really loud. It was, and then with the movie skipping, and that's probably why he was doing it, because it was hard to concentrate. But, you know, it's just a lot of different cultures and a lot of different backgrounds in one spot. And, you know, I've heard of controversies at this detainment center because they've made the Muslims and all that go by the toilets to pray and everything, which I think is so wrong. And so, you know, he looked at me and he said, everything is good. Even if things on the outside are bad, everything is good. And I said, yeah, it is. It's fine. It's going to be okay, you know? And I'll never forget those people. And they told me I was in there for a reason and to like help these people and just like spread the good news, honestly. Like, everyone, I mean, I had a fat sweater on that said like, trust in God with all your heart, don't lean on your own understanding. Like, I had just got a bunch of shirts from Christian Tees and More, and the lady like met me somewhere so I could have them all for my trip. And so I had a shirt on that said be brave, like God gives his you know, craziest battles to his strongest soldiers. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like trying to stand strong, you know. And God told me that I got thrown in the fire so that some people can see Jesus, you know. Sometimes he hands you over to people, and so people can see the God in you, because like the God living in us is greater than that in the world. So that's why I had to stand up and speak out about what happened to me. I mean, after this, I had to say goodbye to everybody in the pen, and I felt so bad for them because they had a longer haul than me. And then they escorted me to my flight the back way and kept my passport until I got off the plane in LAX. And you know, if it was up to them and immigration officers and everything, I wouldn't have had any meals. But the lady that escorted me to the plane, she was really nice, and she had nothing to do with immigration or G4S. And she told the flight attendants, like, look, you know, she didn't commit any crime. There's nothing going on here. Just like wasn't allowed entry, and it's her birthday. Can you do something, maybe, you know? And so, yeah, it was my birthday after all this. But God is hilarious. So that little angel on the flight, she brought me, she's like, oh my gosh, we have extra vegetarian meals that turned out to be vegan. Do you want them? And I was like, yes, please, you know. And so God's hilarious, because I left Gatwick, London at 5 a.m., but I got to LAX at 9 a.m. So I got to relive my birthday. And, you know, my best friend Ashley picked me up and took me to Six Flags, and, you know, all of it kind of I got to forget about for a little while. So, but don't underestimate what's happening in this world, and we can't lose our compassion. God really wanted me to have compassion for these people in these immigration prisons and actually getting separated from their children and being like transgendered or gay and seeking asylum, and you know, people are dying in American border patrol custody, in UK. I mean, these are not just the other countries, these are the big countries that people are dying in these people's care. I mean, because border control and immigration should not be privatized by any means, just like prisons shouldn't. When are we going to step up and do something about it? Because it can easily happen to you or your family member, and then that's going to be too late. Like, we need to stand up right now and have compassion and empathy, not violence or any violent acts against anybody, because it's not even the immigration's fault. The officers and all that are being paid to do this. I hope everyone realizes that it's about money, and people's gods are money, and that's scary. Very scary.
There is freedom, there is freedom. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom, there is freedom. Out of the dark, just as you are, into the fullness of His love. Oh, the Spirit is here, let there be freedom.
Pray.
Let there be freedom.
Pray for the people seeking asylum. Pray for the people in immigration prison. Let there be freedom. You know, just stand by. If you do anything, do it. Come to the protest tomorrow. It's going to be in Little Italy at 11, and it's going to be by the waterfront. Let the prisons break. Open. Let us out. Set the captives free.